Hi, councillors. Thank you. Welcome to the Finance Strategy and Management Committee meeting on Tuesday, the 27th of June at 5:30. This meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Bill of Town Council YouTube page. The aim is that decisions made shall be transparent and in the public domain, which will involve more of our community and local democracy. By being in the council chamber, you are consenting to be recorded and for your images to be added to YouTube. The images and sound will be used for training purposes. Any views expressed are the speaker's own and not necessarily reflected the views of Bill of Town Council. Please view the guidance of recording and public meeting places if you need more information. In the hope to cut down a lot of paperwork, we're using the screen behind us for the relevant applications that you want to discuss later on in the meeting. To start with, apologies, please.
Councillors Brady and Wood.
Thank you. Declarations of interest, disclosable pecuniary interests, and any other interests. Councillor Jones.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Pretty much anything with Bill Moore in it. Thank you. Non-pecuniary, but other.
So I am involved in the cricket and the social club. NABS the social.
NABS the social club. Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. Any other? Okay. Number 17, to confirm the minutes of the meeting of the Finance Strategy meeting held on the 30th of May. This has been approved in Town Council on the 13th of June. Can I sign those as a true copy, please?
Move it, Chair.
Okay. 18. Consider introducing ward meetings for councillors and a planning session to reflect the Town Council priorities. Can I bring in on that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll notice that a number of the agendas for other committees have had an item where we want to consider our priorities for the coming year. And I think that's been a challenge for those who are new to the council, and those who've been here a while still have lots of ambitions about things they want to achieve. So I wondered whether it might be beneficial for us to sit down, lots of bits of flip chart paper, as it were, and try and pull some of those ideas all together, and then I can hopefully formulate them into what I think we should put together is now a 2 to 3 year plan rather than a rolling annual action plan, which is what we've done previously. Hopefully this will be the year of the neighbourhood plan. Looks like we're moving closer towards that. And we always said that we'd have a longer term vision, a longer term plan at the point at which we'd got that through. So it feels like it's an appropriate time to think about doing that, and to kind of not make the decisions at that meeting, but to kind of bounce some ideas around about priorities for people's wards and their individual projects and things that they'd like to move forward. So I wondered firstly whether that you'd find that beneficial, but I also wondered whether you would like to reintroduce ward meetings. Well, that's only really relevant for North, East and West, where there are 6 councillors. But around the time of COVID, when we couldn't all meet together face to face, it was quite helpful to have online meetings, or we can do them face to face if you want to, just to discuss some of the issues that are only really relevant to wards. So if there's an issue with a particular neighbour, perhaps, or a wall that's a problem, something that you maybe wouldn't think about bringing to Town Council to resolve, but actually it's helpful to know that one councillor in an area is looking at rather than all 6 are looking at that sort of opportunity. So that's a couple of ideas I've thought in terms of sort of streamlining our decision making, making sure that we're all singing from the same hymn sheet, as it were, to just consider your ideas on that, really.
Councillor Yates.
Yes, I think both very valid and very good points, and certainly no objection to either of them. The only comment I will make is that this afternoon we were discussing the Cabinet over in Staffordshire Moors, the Shared Prosperity Fund, and going through the qualifying criteria and things. And I think it's very important that projects which we are working on get revalidated, obviously with the new council, and we really focus down and perhaps arrange a meeting with the appropriate officers to make sure that we've got the right bids in and the right categories, and as far as possible, the guidance, you know, that we're following their guidance to make sure that they are robust bids and bids which will be considered, because it's something which we put a lot of debate into this afternoon to make sure that that funding does end up being at the right places. So it's all down to meeting the criteria in the bids. The allocation within the different criteria, there's a whole list of things which, you know, it does.
Sorry, just
It is a very precise figure, you see.
turn a little bit here.
Are you on number 19, the shared
I
prosperity?
was on strategic direction.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, I'm just making sure that the strategic direction does meet the criteria and do it. Yeah. No good having projects if you can't fund them. I'm trying to find you funding. I know it's coming up next, but it's a different thing.
I think that's the point, really. There are so many good ideas at the moment that we're at risk of losing them or not working certain up into being deliverable. I think we just need to be really clear as a council what about.
Thank you, Councillor Yates. It's a big agenda. I appreciate what you're saying, but we will have to not ramble on to little bits of other ideas. We'll have to be here all night. Thank you. Any other comments?
We're on 18 or 19,
18.
18. Yeah,
18, yeah.
that's it. No, I haven't got anything to respond.
Oh, thank you. So in principle, all in favour of going ahead with that idea?
Moving chair.
Okay, all in favour? Yep. Number 9, shared prosperity. To receive an update in relationship to the shared prosperity funding. Chief Officer again, please.
I've put this on again, just because I don't want this to fall off the agenda, because it is something that's really important to us. And we had those who were able to attend last week. We had a conversation about tourism across the Staffordshire Moorlands and how the town council could support that particular agenda. And we took the opportunity to try and get some answers out of the officer who is also involved in the Shared Prosperity Project at the end of the session. Initially to kind of express some dissatisfaction with the way that had been managed so far, but also to try and understand how the 23-24 and 24-25 allocations will work. I'm not sure we got a lot of answers, except that there seems to be an idea on supporting the community with kind of social enterprise, those sorts of endeavours. There didn't seem to be, from what she said, an awful lot that the town council could actually apply for, but she was very clear that actually the direction of travel comes from the board. And the membership of the board, and I think we've probably touched on this before, but the membership of the board comes from central government. They say who you've got to have as the organisations that need to be represented. And so I think our position will need to be that when we know who's on the board, that we have to, so I'm looking at Kevin because he was there, Councillor Jackson, so that we have to lobby the board that perhaps some of it could come towards bid off. But it didn't sound a lot like there would be things that we as a town council could bid into. Certainly we can support people in our community if they've got the capacity to do that, to bid into things, but there didn't seem to be an awful lot that would come our way at that particular.
Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, it was a 2-hour meeting, there or thereabouts, and again, I've shared the Shared Prosperity Fund. You'd never come out of those meetings, I don't think, much clearer than when you went in. It was when we had the first training session. I said at the end of that one, I'm no further forward now after that meeting than I was before. I will pick up on a couple of things. Councillor Flunder, when he was sort of on the board, indicated to quite a few of us around this table that we would be getting the lion's share of Shared Prosperity Fund. He should not have said that. That is what the officer said. So that's one aspect. I did sort of point out the makeup of the board. The two elected members are two elite members. So I said at the meeting, the board is skewed, away from it. I'm not accusing anybody of any bias before they made any decisions. But if you're a elite town and district councillor making a decision, it's a very balanced one on which one goes and which one doesn't. You can understand the propensity to go to one that's a bit closer to home than one that's a bit further away. Leave that one where it is, because we'll have to wait and see how that actually pans out, I think. I've always been a little bit sceptical about how much SMDC spends on tourism and how much the people of, Biddulph East actually get out of it. It's probably negligible. Quite often it's supporting businesses, and the actual ratepayers or the people who actually pay the council tax don't see a great comeback from it. I've always said that most of the jobs in tourism are low pay and seasonal and low skill as well in the main. Not always, I know, but in the main. But we do spend, and we have done over a lot of years, spend a lot of money on tourism in Staffordshire Moorlands. And I've always believed that Biddulph has never got as much out of that as perhaps we should have done. So, and it was a long meeting. There was myself and Councillor Garvey and Sarah there, and Matt Swindlehurst too, and what's the name, the officer? Yeah. And it was a long meeting, but we did spend quite a bit of time on the Shared Prosperity Fund. And it's still not crystal clear, I don't think, how this thing actually operates. For me anyway, it might probably me being a bit thick, but I cannot see, it's not clear cut how this thing operates.
Thank you, Councillor Jack. Councillor Hart.
Two things. Previous work that was done in conjunction with Councillor Plunder, different sessions that we had, established that we were short of accommodation, and I can't see money going towards encouraging somebody to put a budget hotel up in Biddulph. It's been an aspiration for many, many years, and our near neighbours seem to have quite a few of them, but we don't. And we're short of accommodation, and it's heads on pillows that bring people in, because a day visitor to the town, somebody who goes to Biddulph Grange, doesn't spend much in Biddulph town centre. But somebody who stays in the town for 2 or 3 days spends actually 11.7 times more. And those are the stats from Enjoy Staffordshire. So if we could find a way to encourage people to apply for grants to start accommodation businesses, then we're going halfway towards making up the difference, because Leek and Cheadle do have accommodation, and quite a lot of it in comparison with Biddulph. Biddulph don't. We've got some very good attractions. We've got one that acquire 80,000 visitors a year, but they don't stay here. So motorhome pitches on rural sites like the ones at Biddulph Moor encourage people to stay for some considerable number of days. Secondly, can I ask a question? Who's the portfolio holder for tourism now? It's Matt Swindlehurst, is it? Is that confirmed?
Oh, yeah.
Leave me on to tell you.
Yeah, I can confirm that it's not near the truth.
No, it's just take a test.
I haven't seen it written anywhere.
It's on the website.
Right, okay.
Thank you, Councillor Hart.
We did actually, Chair, we did touch on the mobile home aspects. We did have quite a long discussion on that about actually providing pitches, which is something that's fairly cheap to do and would encourage overnight stays. So we did touch on that.
Thank you for the update. It's very disappointing. There's obviously a lot to be considered in the future of that. Anyway, moving on to number 20. This one was fairly straightforward, IO. Confirm that the £2 fare will continue until the end of October 2023, in line with the government initiative. This will be, we had a boss meeting the other day, and we wanted to extend the £2. The cost so far has been extremely low. I would just like to continue with the £2 from now on. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to say, the only thing I add to that is put the words at least in between until the end of, at least the end of October. I think it's a good scheme. It hasn't had a massive take up, but it has helped a bit and it's cost buttons.
Really?
I think we should keep it going in the interest of the people that do need it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Holsworth and then Hart.
Does anybody actually pay to go on that bus? Because I took it up to the moor sometime and the only cash the driver had was £1.54. So as far as I know, most people use a car.
No. Can I just bring Councillor Lawton in and then I'll bring you in, Andrew, after that. So Councillor Lawton, you can answer that better than anybody in this room, I think.
Mr. Chairman, I can, without any figures in front of me. I'm going from memory here, because every month we get promptly ridership data from the operator, which I analyse and digest. Basically, bus passes account for, broadly speaking, 80% of riders. And of the bus passes, the lion's share of those are for elderly as opposed to disabled. So there's a high number of non-payments, if you like, simply because their bus passes are too often. In addition to that, the operator does honour and issue network tickets, day tickets or weekly tickets that are available on other routes. And if people have bought those elsewhere and present those people don't pay on the bus. So cash income is a relatively low amount, cash and card payment, that is, relatively low amount. And indeed, that's the case with many bus services now, particularly with that one, because of it, the profile of the ridership. That's the answer there.
Thank you.
Regarding how many people use cars, that's a different question altogether.
Thank you for your update on that. Thank you. Councillor Hart.
Yeah, Chair, I fully support what Councillor John Jones has said. There's definitely evidence that even though it's a low usage, it is helping the right people. I'd like to see it continue. I'd like to see us make it more well known to the public out there. And I'm very much a supporter of the 93 bus. And I think that it's one of the best things this town council's ever done.
Thank you. Chief Officer, please, and then Councillor Jackson.
Sorry, I just wanted to be really clear about what it has cost us. So actually, we haven't had an invoice for this, but Councillor Lawton and I met with the operator a week and a half ago, perhaps. And after that, we'd had some discussion then. He said so far we would owe him £59.74. But he was suggesting that if the figure got to over £100, then he'd send us an invoice. But bear in mind that that's been running since middle of November last year. So that's the potential cost for us at the moment for running this £2 scheme. And that's because we agreed that we would pay if it was over and above kind of a set value, really, the usage was. But in that discussion we had with him, we did also note that there were quite a number of people who were buying the £2 ticket and then using it again, which is what we wanted. So we wanted them to be able to buy one ticket and then use it for subsequent journeys as well. And there were quite a number of people who were using it for that, which was really positive.
Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you. Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, it's slightly off this, but not nonetheless. I mean, Stoke-on-Trent have put their scheme now on for 12 months, but government funding to do it for 12 months. It's just a shame that they're cutting the bus services at the same time they're doing it. It just seems to giving with one hand and taking away with the other. Just a point on the 7A, which, you know.
Thank you. Just very briefly, Councillor Lawton.
Yeah, just an afterthought. Every month we compare the total ridership of the 93 against what we call the pre-COVID level to see how much it's recovered. In the most recent month for which we had data, it has reached 92.5% of pre-COVID level, which is as high or higher than most other bus services in this area. Which recovery has been good, I would argue.
Thank you. So we're all in favour of the £2 with the slight amendment by Councillor Jones that we carry on with the £2. All in favour, please.
So I think I've got proposers, Councillor
No, sorry,
Who's
proposing
proposing
second.
Those, just saying,
Okay, so all in favour, yeah. Thank you. 22. Support Staffordshire volunteering for all. See an update on the new role within Staffordshire ones based within the town hall. Chief Officer has another report here for us. If we can pass this round, please.
Hot off the press, actually, not literally hot, but it's come from the new volunteering for all officer this afternoon. The idea of this post is that it's a district council funded post, which we understand is for 2 years. The idea is to increase volunteering across the town so that if you're an organisation, you can meet with her to say we need volunteers. And if you're somebody who wants to volunteer, you can contact her as well, and she will kind of a sort of brokerage scheme, I suppose. She will match you with somebody that you're interested in. The idea, as I understand it, is that it will basically help to bolster our local community groups. She's going to have a kind of desk in reception on these days. We've agreed that so that we can hopefully get some matches happening. And so if you are out and about, if you would stick one of these posters up for us, that's marvellous. So just let people know if you come across them. Hopefully that will bring her some work in.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
yeah, is this in when? Is this her?
No, I think that's a stock photo.
Oh, right, okay. Thought it might be. Sticking one. There you go.
All right. So that's the update on that. Oh, sorry, Councillor
I
Jones.
was just going to ask a question. If I went and met this lady and asked about, could she explain the shared prosperity fund to me, would she be able to do it, do you think? Because the shared prosperity fund is something that a lot of these voluntary groups should be looking at. And she needs to be far more tuned up than I am on the shared prosperity fund for a start off. So, yeah,
There was
welcome it.
Yeah, there was reference in the discussion that we had with her about helping to work on cost of living issues. But I'm not really sure how that plays out. So we'll see how that goes.
Thank you. Councillor Yates.
Yes, hopefully this will create a new pool of volunteers as well. People who come in and say, you know, I'd like to volunteer my services, go for things. I presume she'll offer some kind of skills matrix and some kind of preference on what kind of things they'd like to volunteer for, and then perhaps, you know, the next generation of volunteers for some of the long-standing groups which we've got from some of the new groups which we're building, because it's always difficult to get the right number of volunteers at the right time. So having that ring round would be brilliant.
Thank you.
Chair, are we going to put this on our website and advertise it and push it and all that? Yep.
Social
Thank you.
media, physical notice boards, all the rest of it. It has literally come through this afternoon. So
Hot on first.
Cracking idea.
Thank you. I hope it jumps up to all volunteers that we were short of.
Yeah, I agree.
Number 22. SEND provision. To receive a verbal update on SEND provisions with the town. Briefing note provided by Councillor Flunder. So, Chief Officer has a note and an email here.
But there's a hard copy here if anyone wants it. Councillor Flunder was most concerned that people should know what was going on with regards to special educational needs disability provision within the town. So he sent us four bullet points, I guess, four points. Do you want me to just read those out? Is that helpful?
The bullet points. Yeah.
To know why it's on this agenda, because it's not really finance and strategy. It should be community, maybe, if anyone.
I think it's because he's working on a strategy and he hoped it would fit in with our kind of strategic thinking.
If we could just go through it without spending too much time on it then, please.
Yeah, so the County Council's recently launched their new SEND strategy. Obviously, he's put there that that's in response to the Ofsted recommendations. There'd been a meeting arranged with Councillor Jonathan Price, and several of the town councillors here went to that. We were promised a response after the consultation regarding co-production, that's the units in schools, over the coming months. It would appear that the unit that has been built but not utilised yet at Biddulph High School would fit the new strategy and therefore improve centre services in the town and the surrounding area. At the same time as the meeting in Stafford, there were meetings concerning the new strategy that Dr. Hallett, being the main officer leading the new strategy, shouldn't have put this in italics. It's not hard to read in italics. Different glasses. I've been told that I will have a meeting with Jonathan and Dr. Hallett sometime over the summer after the consultation period has been completed. I'll then push for another meeting with Jonathan and Co as soon as I hear a response. Just to confirm that Potteries Trust got interest there. I have put on our Facebook page, but I think it's worth letting people know that there is a current consultation in relation to centre provision in the town. That's something that people are actively encouraged to complete. It's very much a case of, this needs to be a strength of voice and a strength of numbers as regards that. So I've tried to push that through our social media. So
Thank you. Thank you for that. Councillor Smith, please.
Just firstly, on the first point, a bit aggrieved that other councils are used as a measuring stick to say that we're doing better than other councils. That's not an accurate way of measuring how well we're doing. We're not doing very well, and we're not supporting the EHC3. So I would kind of argue against that. And the other point was the Acorn Centre at Biddulph High School. We've already had a previous discussion about it being for the high school children. And at that time, although it says it a bit further, that they might be opening it to the lower school children, but they didn't have the practitioners at the time to open it up to lower school children with the right skill set for those primary age children. And they've also stripped a lot of the staff away that were working in the special educational needs centre within the high school. So I'm a bit reluctant to believe that we've got it covered, to be honest.
Thank you. Councillor Holsworth.
Actually, that might have answered my question. I was going to ask for the age range that they would be able to go to this new unit. That's
Thank you. That's okay, then you sorted, yeah.
actually
Answer your question. Okay, yeah. Councillor Hall, sorry. Okay.
I was just thinking, basically, I presume that this unit, the high school, is just for the high school. And what we've got is all the schools in Biddulph have all got CNs. And potentially, is there any way that this unit can actually be used for those children? And if not, what is the provision for the rest of them? Because obviously, if they're going to use it for all the children, how are they going to get them there? Because obviously, like schools at Biddulph Moor, Woodhouse, or whatever, are isolated from the high school. So you've got the problem of transporting children. So to me, I mean, yes, you've got a unit there, but it doesn't really serve Biddulph. It just serves one school, as far as I can see.
Point taken on that, to be fair. Councillor Yates.
Yes, I think this is showing up why it shouldn't really be on the finance committee, because it opens up a broad discussion. But basically, I mean, the policy is still under development. There is a consultation which is out in the public at the moment, which is being well circulated on the social media channels, and it's been promoted as news stories in the Biddulph Chronicle and where possible. And within the SEND community, it's important that survey is done and completed, because there's more potential for SEND provision to be provided elsewhere within Biddulph, and we need to push as a community to achieve that. And this will be one of the bricks of the wall which puts that together. And that's at this moment in time, while the consultation is still going, it's odd. You can't prejudge this and say this is an outcome. This is just a holding document while that's going on. There's an awful lot more questions and things to ask for.
Yeah, thank you for that update anyway. Councillor Saul.
Yeah. So the Acorn Centre was put on hold because basically the Biddulph High School couldn't finance the finishing of the building because it was building inspected, and the building inspectors didn't agree that it was up to scratch, and they would have had to have invested a lot more money into it, and they didn't have the money at the time. So what Jonathan Price said to us at the meeting that we attended is categorically Staffordshire County Council will not be building any more special schools in Staffordshire at all, full stop. The only way we're going to get a new special school in Biddulph is if it's done through free school funding. So an academy trust decides to apply for government for free school funding and decides to build a school of their own accord. And then what parents of children will do will be apply for that school and claim the money off the county council to fund their position at that school. As far as I'm aware, there's no school in Staffordshire that's currently taking that. We've actually just missed the boat again. But free school funding, I think it was the 4th of May or something like that, where 4th of June, where we could apply for free school funding. So that's not happening. The only thing that we're going to get in Biddulph will be co-production. So obviously we've got the Acorn Centre there, potentially. There's been an expression of interest, and I think Jonathan Price said there was £17 million that could go into co-production. So we need to make sure that we've got a Biddulph school other than the high school interested in co-production. So for those councillors around the table, and I don't think there's anybody here today apart from Charlie, Nigel and I, the All Biddulph Children Group that's been set up held a meeting at the beginning of May. And one of the actions from that meeting was that Councillor Parks and I were going to write to the CEOs of all the local schools, because most schools in Biddulph now are part of an academy trust, and arrange a meeting where all the CEOs can get together to decide if there's any appetite having a building on their site for co-production. And what that academy trust would then need to do would be apply to the county council for some of the £17 million funding to host this co-production. So it seems like at the moment that Biddulph High School is the only school that isn't expressed an interest to do that so far. But that's because they already had the acorn already planted in the ground until they face those financial troubles. What we need is another school in Biddulph to follow that pathway. And there are schools in Biddulph with capacity. So, for example, Nibsworth First School has got a building that needs renovating that's not used at the minute, the old school hall, and so is Kingsfield. They've got a building that they currently don't use. So I've not spoken to those head teachers or CEOs, but that's what the meeting that Adam and I are trying to arrange, just to see if there's any scope from those CEOs to apply for some of that £17 million funding to get this co-production, because we're not going to get a county council funded special school back in Biddulph. Well, not with the current administration anyway. That's categorically no. So this briefing note is neither use nor ornament. I think the people at that meeting knew this anyway. And he's told us about it when he stood there. So I don't know, it's a bit strange, but there we go.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hall, Park, sorry.
What is co-production, please, for the less well-educated?
So co-production is where you've got, instead of just having a special needs school, you've got a site in school that will look after special needs children on a mainstream site. So a separate little building where it doesn't have to be a separate building, a separate classroom, a separate facility, or a facility that is designed for special needs children.
Thank you. Through the chair, thanks for the clarity.
Thank you. I think we all know we need one, but how we achieve that isn't quite so easy. But thank you for that update. Thank you. All right, we're moving on. Okay. Number 23, standard agenda items. About any assets in line with the asset management policy and financial regulations. Chief Officer, please.
I've got nothing for you this time. Thank you.
Okay, it's always put on the agenda. So on to B, 23B, to confirm approved suppliers as part of the procurement policy.
Thank you. So we've got 2 new approved suppliers this time. To remind you, we have an approved contractor application process, and just to run through that, we require them to tell us all about their health and safety position, in terms of whether they've had any reportable incidents, whether there's any claims for litigation, anything like that. We ask them to submit risk assessments and method statements for the work that they're likely to do for us. And with regards to equal opportunities, we ask them to confirm that they have suitable equal opportunities policies in place, and and we want to see copies of that. We want to see copies of their insurance details and where it's appropriate, professional accreditation. And then there's quite an extensive preparation that they complete for that. So we've got 2 new approved contractors for you this time. So Wayne Marsh has done some small scale pre-work for us. So he's joined our approved contractors list, as have Westland Environmental Safety. They've previously done some asbestos work within the town hall, having gone through this process, and they'd now like to join our approved list. So that's something that will be reviewed every 12 months. Those people who are on it will be asked to refresh the documents. And in the main, those people who are on the approved contractors list will be contacted about emergencies or opportunities that arise that they might want to quote for. So that's two new organisations at this time.
Okay. Moving on then. Confidential items, no public as I'm aware of to be excluded. So YouTube will now be switched off. I'm going to go into confidential items.